I hope you have gone through yesterday, the last class. Do you have any doubts on the last class? Anything? Were you able to attempt all the questions asked in the test? Assignment test. You have the paper? Okay. But were you able to attempt all the test? Agriculture? They asked you a question on agriculture marketing. That should not have been there. Because it was not covered, right? Okay, fine. Yes, Yashvi, there are some answers pending. Do not worry. I will share my feedback in next 2 to 3 days. Okay. Just drop me a reminder on my mail as well. Okay, you can write down the list of topics that we'll be covering in today's class. List of topics. Number 1 is the fertilizer subsidy. Fertilizer subsidy. Second one, agriculture marketing. Agriculture marketing. Third one, inverse fork to farm. Inverse fork to farm. FORK. Inverse fork to farm. FARM. Inverse fork to farm. Next, Essential Commodities Act. Essential Commodities Act. Next one, MSP, benefits and challenges. MSP, benefits and challenges. Next, legalization of MSP, pros and cons. Legalization of MSP, pros and cons. And the last one, if time permits, PM Asha. PM Asha. So you must have identified that except the topic of fertilizer subsidy, all other topics that we are going to cover is mostly centered around the topic of agriculture marketing. Okay. Before that, how many of you know about agreement on agriculture? Please raise your hand. Agreement on agriculture. There's a WTO agreement, right? Agreement on agriculture. How many of you know that? Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Other people don't have any idea. Okay. So, see, very sure UPSC is not going to repeat the same question once again. So, there was a question in the previous year mains. You must have come across this question. I showed you in the last class. This was the question. What are the direct and indirect subsidies provided to farm sector in India? Which we have already covered. Second part is, what are the issues raised by WTO in relation to agricultural subsidies? So here UPSC asked a question explicitly related to issues raised by WTO. This is something which we have not covered. So for benefit of all the students, just give me 5 to 10 minutes. I will wind up this particular discussion so that we can start focusing on the next topic, that is fertilizer subsidy. And you must also understand that very rarely the same dimension gets repeated. So I don't think UPSC is going to ask you the same question once again about what are the issues raised by WTO. It was in news that year. That is why the question was asked. It was mainly a current affairs based question. But let's quickly discuss the PYQ. So, under World Trade Organization, let's say we have India and USA. Both are involved in trade, bilateral trade. And here we are focusing on the trade of agricultural commodities. You know that one of the founding pillars of World Trade Organization is to dismantle all the trade barriers to trade, like dismantling the customs duty or non-trade barriers like quota. All that barriers have to be reduced. So what WTO seeks to ensure is when India is importing certain agricultural goods from USA, ideally, India should not impose any barriers. No barriers. Ideally. Same way, when US is importing some agricultural commodities from India, ideally, US should not impose any barriers. I'm focusing on the word ideally, because generally no country has 0% customs duty. Every country has a customs duty. So that is the basic idea of World Trade Organization. So you know that US government gives subsidies to its farmers, just like how Indian government gives subsidy to its farmers. These subsidies can lead to increase in production of agricultural commodities in US. Same way, we can give subsidies to our farmers so that the production increases. What kind of subsidies? Seeds, fertilizers, MSP, that kind of subsidies we can give, right? But between India and US, tell me who is more rich country? US is more rich country. So who can give more subsidies to its farmers? US can give more subsidies. So because US is more richer, it can give more subsidies as compared to the subsidies given by India. So between India and US, where will the production of a commodity be higher? Obviously in US. Let's talk about a commodity like wheat, because both India and US are among the top producers of wheat. So in US, the production of wheat will drastically increase, which will have two repercussions. One repercussion is, can we say that in US there will be surplus wheat? If there is surplus wheat, what will happen to price of wheat in US? It will decline. Now imagine the same wheat US starts to export to India. Ideally, what does WTO want? Ideally, WTO does not want India to impose any kind of barriers. When we import wheat into India, if you compare cost of Indian wheat with cost of US wheat, can I say that US wheat will be much cheaper as compared to Indian wheat? Samay aaya? And if this keeps on continuing year on year, can I say that the farmers in India who are growing wheat, they will completely lose out? They'll stop cultivating wheat completely. Did you get the point? So what is the solution to this problem? I can give you another example. Let's say India is involved in trade with another country, which is Uganda. Uganda and India both can give subsidies. But between India and Uganda, which is more richer? India is more richer. Who can give more subsidies? India. And if India starts to export more agricultural commodities to Uganda, can I say that the farmers in Uganda will get adversely affected? Samay aaya? So, when you look at this entire scenario, the main crux of the problem is countries are giving what? Subsidies. So this is the main crux of the problem. So how do you solve this problem? Obviously, we cannot say to countries, do not give subsidies, because farmers are quite poor. So what WTO's agreement on agriculture seeks to do, this agreement on agriculture seeks to put a limit on what? Subsidies. समझ में आया? Now this limit can be different for developing countries, and this limit can be different for developed countries. And we say that the countries should not give subsidies over and above this particular limit. Now tell me, between developing and developed, who should be allowed to give more subsidies? Developing countries should be allowed to give more subsidies. And why is that? Because the farmers in developing countries are more poorer as compared to the farmers in the developed countries. So the limit is there for developing also and developed also. But the limit for developed is less, whereas the limit for developing is more. And how much is that limit? That limit for developing country like India, it is 10% of the value of agricultural production in 1986-88. Please look at the limit. 10% of value of agricultural production in which year? 1986-88. इतना पीछे क्यों गए हम? Any reason? Anyone knows? Who knows about agreement on agriculture? You said you know about it, right? So why did we take this as a reference? What is so special about this year? Huh? You said something? No, it's not about exchange rate. How many of you heard about Uruguay Round, by the way? Uruguay Round, which ultimately led to the foundation of WTO in 1995. This Uruguay Round started in 1986. So this year, 1986, is the year when Uruguay Round started. That is when the negotiations for agreement on agriculture also started. So we chose the base year as a year in which the negotiations for agreement on agriculture started. That is the reason why we have chosen this as a base year. In simple words, for India, in 1986-88, if the value of our agricultural production was rupees 100, how much subsidies can India give? Just 10 rupees. Just 10. It cannot give more than 10. For developed countries, this is how much? 5%. Assuming in US, in 1986-88, the total value of agricultural production in US was $100. How much can US give? $5. That's it. Samajh mein aaya, everyone? Another problem which has surfaced in India is, India is implementing a NFSA, National Food Security Act, under which we have promised that 67% of India's population will have access to food security. To provide food security, can I say that the government would have to undertake more procurement of food grains? If we are undertaking more procurement of food grains, you must understand what is MSP, by the way. MSP is a subsidy. To undertake procurement to provide food security to 67% of population, India has to give subsidy over and above this 10% limit. And this is what WTO has raised concerns. So on one side, as a developing country, we have our commitment towards our international obligation, that is agreement on agriculture. While on the other hand, we also have our domestic obligation in the form of NFSA. Clear? Now tell me, for India, what should be our priority? NFSA or agreement on agriculture? NFSA, because it is our domestic law and we have to provide for food security. So India was fighting to ensure that India gets an exception. India should get an exception to implement NFSA. Developed countries have given an exception to the developing countries. That exception which is given to developing countries is called as the peace clause. Under this peace clause, India, or for that matter, developing countries, can give subsidies more than 10%. We can give them, but only under one condition. What do you think that condition is? Under what condition can we give more than 10%? The only condition is you can give subsidies more than 10% provided you are giving subsidies for meeting your food security. Nothing else. समझ में आया? The problem is this peace clause is what? It is temporary. And what is India demanding now? India is demanding for a permanent solution to this problem. So that is one of the biggest issue right now. You must understand this is a topic which I generally cover in 1 hour. It's not easy to cover in, summarize in 10 minutes. I've tried my best because it's a PYQ. You just have to know about this. So, number one concern, what is the concern raised by WTO? That India is giving subsidies over and above the 10% limit. That's the first concern. Second, just like how we declare MSP for food crops, India also declares what? FRP, fair and remunerative prices for sugarcane. The same concern has been raised with FRP also, that whatever subsidy we are giving to farmers for FRP, even that is exceeding the 10% limit. That's the second. Third concern, under this agreement on agriculture, countries are prohibited from providing export subsidies. Export subsidies means no country can give subsidies to its farmers to export their products. What can be that export subsidy? One of the export subsidy could be in the form of, look at this word, ye kya hai? Transport subsidy. Let's say there's a farmer in the hinterland of Maharashtra, like Nasik district of Maharashtra. If this farmer has to export the agricultural products, can I say the transportation cost is very high, because from Nasik he has to transport the products all the way to Mumbai port. So the government will provide for reimbursement of transportation cost, so that the farmer is encouraged to export more commodities to other countries. But this kind of subsidy is actually prohibited under agreement on agriculture. But India was giving this transport subsidy in the year 2022. Look at the year in which the question was asked. The question was asked in 2023. 1 year before, India was giving the transport subsidy. So how many concerns we covered? 3. First concern क्या था? MSP का. Second concern क्या था? FRP का. Third concern क्या था? Transport subsidy or the export subsidies. समझ आया? Is everyone clear with this? Apart from that, there is another concern which is with respect to buffer stock, or we also call it as public stock holding. Yes, क्या concern है? हाँ, तो why is WTO concerned with our buffer stock? ये तो domestic buffer stock है ना? Domestic prices influence होती है, international prices कैसे influence होते हैं? You getting it? Okay. Another concern raised by WTO is India is maintaining buffer stock or public stock holding much above what it requires. Let's say for NFSA, National Food Security Act, every year we might need around 60 million tons of rice and wheat, just 60. But we might be maintaining around 90 million tons, much more than our buffer stock requirement. WTO has raised concern with this. But my question is very plain and simple. Why is WTO concerned with how much buffer stock we are maintaining? Why should it be worried about our buffer stock? Huh? Someone is saying something? What WTO believes is if India is maintaining buffer stock more than what it requires, India can export the surplus buffer stock to other countries. If it export the surplus buffer stock to other countries, can I say it will distort the international prices of the agricultural commodities? What if we start selling these commodities in the international market at a very less price? Distortion ही हो सकता है. On the other hand, the Indian government is counter arguing, look, this buffer stock is not something that we are maintaining it for export. The buffer stock, we are maintaining it to meet our food security needs. Especially in a country like India, where suddenly the prices of agricultural commodities could increase or decrease, तब क्या करना चाहिए government को? Suddenly, if it increases, it should release the food grains on the buffer stock to bring down its price. So government says we are maintaining this buffer stock, not that we want to export. We are maintaining this buffer stock because we want to control the volatility in our domestic market. Clear with this? So these are some of the problems that you can highlight. Clear? So this was a question which was asked. Look how many points you have, almost 4 to 5 points you have, right? But look at the question. How many marks this question has been asked for? How many? But you have only 4 points to write. What will you do in that case? क्या करना है? Let me see who will think intelligently on this. Okay, probably yes. What he says is whatever 4 points, 5 points you have, you expand it. Instead of writing it in small bullets, you expand it in a proper paragraph format. Good. That is one thing you can do. Apart from that, he says another important thing. He says if you have less point in the second part, you expand the first part. Look at the first part. What does it say? What are the direct and indirect subsidies? If I have more content to write for the second part of the answer, what will I do? In the first part, I will just write it in bullets. That's it. कि ये सारे subsidies है. I'll just provide a list. But because I have less points to write in the second part, what will I do in the first part is, I will elaborate that. Like MSP, what is MSP? What is PM Kisan? What is PM Kusum? I will elaborate it. Just like the way I have done it here. Good. This is what I have said. Because I have less content to write the second part. ठीक है? So you can see here, this is the first part. What I've done, for every subsidy, I have just explained it. Direct and indirect. And this is the second part. That's it. I have covered this. I have covered this, this, and this. That's it. And look at the conclusion. हाँ, so that's what I said. Like इंडिया का क्या डिमांड है? अभी जो पीस क्लॉज है वो टेम्पररी है. We should insist on having a permanent solution. That's what I mentioned. Presently, some of the issues have been resolved through the temporary peace clause. India has consistently argued that the agriculture subsidies are necessary to ensure food security for its population. Hence, going forward, India must engage in the meaningful negotiations and arrive at the permanent solution. That is how you should write. I will be sharing this PPT with you. Okay, just go to this. But I hope everyone has got to know the gist of agreement on agriculture. How much is the limit? 10%. Of what year? Why 1986-88? Uruguay round started. How much is for the developed countries? 5%. Huh. Okay, he has a very good question. He says that 10% limit, is it on the total production or is it crop specific? The limit is both. 10% of the total value of agriculture production in 1986-88. That means if you add the subsidies for all the crops, it should not cross 10% of the total value of agriculture production in 1986-88. That's the first type. Second, this limit is also crop specific limit. Crop specific limit means in 1986-88, assuming that the rice production value was rupees 50, then on rice, government cannot give more than 10% of rupees 50, which comes out to be 5. So the limit is crop specific as well as total production specific. If I get into that, it's become a different topic altogether, because then I will have to discuss what are India's concerns with that and all those things, which I don't want to get into. I'll come to that. So just see one point. One point which India has highlighted because he has raised this concern. For developed countries, how much it is? 5% of agricultural production in 1986-88. For developing countries, it is 10%. India says percentage is very misleading. Why it says percentage is misleading is, if you convert that percentage value into absolute amount mein, who is actually giving more subsidies? Developed countries, na? Because 5% of agricultural production in 1986-88 for US, any day in absolute value will always be much, much higher than our 10% of agricultural production. So India has raised a number of concerns with that, but I don't want to get into that because it's a different topic altogether. Okay? Come again? Fisheries, we have now come up with a new agreement on fisheries. It has been finalized just 2 weeks back. So it's a new agreement. The concern was when we give subsidies to our farmers, right? So fisheries, fishermen, we give subsidies like we give cheaper credit to farmers so that they can buy boats. We provide them with cheaper diesel because they can use the diesel for going out in the open seas. When we give too much of subsidies to our fishermen, it leads to over exploitation of the fish in the open waters. So you must have seen this problem, especially in India. Around our territorial waters, the biggest problem which has taken place is overfishing. That is why you must have repeatedly come across this particular news where the farmers from Tamil Nadu repeatedly they go into the Sri Lankan waters, deep seas, for exploiting fish. One of the reasons why this has happened is overfishing in our territorial waters. There has to be sustainable fishing, right? Fishing has to be sustainable. So agreement on fisheries is trying to put a limit on the fishery subsidies. It is different from agreement on agriculture. We'll discuss that separately. As such, there are different categories of subsidies. Under that, they have said ki how much, which all subsidies they can be given. Okay. Yahan tak clear hai? Next. Fertilizer subsidy. Fertilizer subsidy. Okay. Here, with respect to fertilizer subsidy, let's understand why does this topic become important. In the previous year mains, 2 questions have been asked, and both these questions, as you could observe, they were very broad based. I don't think you will be third time lucky. Third time lucky तो आप नहीं होगे, फिर से सेम सवाल तो नहीं आएगा. Rather, UPSC might ask you a question on a subsidy which is very much in news. That subsidy which is very much in news right now is fertilizer subsidy. Why is it in news? 2 reasons. Number 1, last year's economic survey has given a recommendation that for fertilizer subsidy, we must adopt DBT, direct benefits transfer, where the subsidy amount should be transferred directly to the farmer's bank account. Have you heard of something called as e-rupee? It's a voucher. It's a voucher which is transferred to people's account. And that voucher can be used only for certain specific purpose. Economic survey has said, let's start transferring the fertilizer subsidy to the farmer's bank account through e-rupee. That is the first reason. Second is, last month in September 2025, there was acute shortage of urea in our domestic market. And the shortage was so severe that there were long queues at the fertilizer shops to purchase urea. Clear with that? So this is a current relevance. So that is why we are going to cover this topic holistically. Apart from that, you can look at this question. What do you mean by nano fertilizers? Discuss how nano fertilizers can have multifaceted benefits for agriculture. You know, this question can be asked in GS paper 3. And I'm very sure when this question is asked, same question which if it is asked in GS paper 3, a lot of students will be confused whether this is a science and tech question or whether it's a economic question. है ना? Confusion तो होगा ही होगा. And you must understand, based upon what kind of subject it is, your answer will also change accordingly. Getting my point? If it is a science and tech question, right? You have to focus more on the first part about what is nano fertilizer. If it is an economic question, you have to focus more on the second part about the benefits. How do you know कि ये economy वाला question है या science and tech? I told you the sequence. Remember, first 4 10 marker and first 4 15 marker. By default, they're always economic question. So you can get a question something like this also. So we are going to cover everything about fertilizer subsidies. Okay, with respect to fertilizer subsidy, we will first cover the present status of fertilizer subsidy. Second is the mechanism of fertilizer subsidy. Third one is the need for fertilizer subsidy. Fourth is challenges. Next is initiatives. And the last one is about strategies. So you can write down first one, present status. Present status. India is the world's second largest consumer, and the third largest producer of fertilizers in the world. Okay, let's understand about the mechanism of fertilizer subsidy here. Let's focus here. What happens in India? I'll tell you the most basic thing before I get into the topic of fertilizer. All of you have heard about fertilizers, right? And you must have heard about fertilizers, which is NPK. N stands for nitrogen, P stands for phosphate, and K stands for potash. Apart from these three, you may have also heard about sulfur also, right? There are other variants also. But understand, NPK, they're actually not fertilizers. They're not fertilizers. They are actually nutrients. When you mix these nutrients, NPK, in a defined proportion, what you get then is a fertilizer. समझ में आया? What you should know, fertilizers are categorized into two types. One is simple fertilizer and the other one is the complex fertilizer. When I say simple fertilizer will have only one nutrient. That's it. Like example would be urea. Urea is a simple fertilizer. Why so? Because urea will comprise of only one nutrient, that is nitrogen. For example, you can see here. So this is urea, right? Urea, as you can see, it's a simple fertilizer which has 46% nitrogen. तो बाकी का क्या होगा फिर? What do you think? Remaining 54%, understand, remaining 54% will have certain filler materials. The filler material could be like limestone, it could be soil, it is some kind of filler material which is added to the urea, that is nitrogen. So 46 is nitrogen, 54 would be the filler material. Why we use that filler material is very simple, because nitrogen, if it is applied in very highly concentrated form, the efficiency of nitrogen absorption by the plants will reduce. So nitrogen is mixed up with some filler material like soil and then it is applied to the crops. So that is a simple fertilizer. Have you heard of this fertilizer? DAP. Diammonium phosphate. Can you see DAP is actually a complex fertilizer. As a complex fertilizer, it has two nutrients, which is nitrogen as well as phosphate. Nitrogen is 18 and phosphate is 46. Any other fertilizer you have heard of? Muriate of potash. Potash. MOP. Third one is muriate of potash. And can you see what kind of fertilizer it is? Simple or complex? Simple fertilizer. It has 60% potash. यहाँ तक clear है सबको? Okay. So keeping this as the background, let's see how are we giving the fertilizer subsidies. For fertilizer subsidies, there are two ways. One is urea subsidy, and the second one is called as nutrient-based subsidy. Nutrient-based subsidy. So these are two types of subsidies that we give on the fertilizer. When I say urea subsidy, let's focus here on urea subsidy. Here, what happens is the government fixes the MRP of the urea bag. MRP of the urea bag is fixed by the government directly. So what happens here is subsidy will be calculated as production cost minus MRP. Subsidy is calculated as production cost minus MRP. Let's see this to an example. So let's say there are three companies. We call them as X, Y, and Z. For these three companies, let's say their production cost is taken into consideration. Do you think the production cost will be same for all the three companies? The production cost will vary, right? So for this company X, the production cost may be somewhere around rupees 500. For Y, it could be around 1000. For Z, it could be 1500. Can you see here? यहाँ पे this company has the lowest production cost and this company has the highest production cost. Between X and Z, who is more efficient in producing urea? X. So this is efficient, most efficient, and this is most efficient, and this is least efficient. Okay, so what will happen here is MRP is fixed by the government. MRP will remain same for everyone. MRP for X would be like 250. For Y also 250. For Z also 250. So how is subsidy given to every company? 500 minus 250, how much subsidy this company will get? 250. This company will get subsidy of 750. This company will get a subsidy of 1250. Samaya, did you identify what's the problem here? क्या problem है यहाँ पे? Highest subsidy is given to a company which has least efficiency. lowest subsidy is given to a company which is most efficient. That's the problem. So यहाँ पे different companies get different amount of subsidies depending upon the production cost. So the problem in this case is it encourages companies to remain inefficient. The problem here is it encourages the companies to remain inefficient. Clear? So to address this problem only, what the government has done, government has introduced nutrient-based subsidy scheme. This scheme was announced in the year 2011. In the year 2011, this subsidy scheme was announced. This subsidy scheme, nutrient-based subsidy, it is applicable to P and K fertilizers. P and K fertilizers. Phosphorus and potash fertilizers. But यहाँ पे what you should know is nitrogen should be in minority. When I say nitrogen must be in minority means in this particular fertilizer किसका share ज़्यादा होना चाहिए? Nutrient का, P and K का. Like it will give subsidy for NPK fertilizer also. But in NPK fertilizer, it will be given provided the share of nitrogen is less than 50%. Whose share should be higher? P and K fertilizer. And here what happens is MRP is fixed by the company itself. MRP is fixed by the company. And as far as the government is concerned, the government will announce subsidy on per kg of nutrients. Subsidy is announced on per kg of nutrients. For example, let's say there is a fertilizer which has NPK. It's a fertilizer, NPK. I told you, provided क्या होना चाहिए? Share of nitrogen must be lower than P and K. So यहां पे क्या होगा? In this case, you have N P K. Let's say the quantity here, N is 10 kg, P is 20 kg, and K is 30 kg. Government is announcing subsidy on per kg of nutrient. For N, the government is saying for every 1 kg I'll give 10 rupee. Rupees 10 per kg. For P, the government might say rupees 20 per kg. For K, the government might say rupees 30 per kg. So look at the total subsidy amount. यहाँ पे कितना होगा? 10 into 10, it will become equal to 100. 20 into 20, how much will that be? 400. 30 into 30, how much will that be? 900. So that way, if a company is manufacturing this NPK fertilizer, how much subsidy will it get? 900 plus 100, 1000. 1000 plus 400, total subsidy amount कितना मिलेगा उसको? 1400. समझ में आया? यहां पे देखो, I said different companies will get different amount of subsidy based upon the production cost. यहां पे, if all the three companies, that is X, Y, Z, if all the three companies are producing this NPK fertilizer, and if everyone using the same proportion of NPK, तो क्या होगा? सबको जो subsidy amount मिलेगा वो same होगा. Everyone will get the same subsidy amount. So here, all companies get same subsidy amount. So let's look at an example. You have X, you have Y, and you have Z. Everyone will get a same subsidy of 1400, looking at the example which we saw. But their production costs will obviously be different. So here production cost may be 2000. यहाँ पे 2500 हो सकता है, and यहाँ पे 1600. Assuming that these companies are not looking up for profit, assumption. Company X is producing fertilizer at rupees 2000. Government is giving them 1400. So what will be the minimum MRP? कितना होगा? 600. यहाँ पे कितना होगा? 1100. यहाँ पे कितना होगा? 1600. So if you are a farmer, which fertilizer would you prefer? X. Because this company is most efficient. So this scheme encourages companies to reduce their production cost and be more efficient. Did you understand this? Now tell me, if this nutrient-based subsidy scheme is so good, why has the government not brought urea under this? क्या reason हो सकता है? Urea is? हाँ, so? हाँ, go on, take it forward. Subsidies? No, that's not the reason. That's not the reason. Subsidies more under urea actually. Why is government not bringing urea under nutrient-based subsidy if it is so good? The reason is very simple. Right now, if you look at one bag of urea. One bag of urea. Right now, the market price. Anyone knows what's the cost of one urea bag? It is 242. It is around 242 rupees. You'll be surprised to know how come I know this. Because it has remained same in the last 8 years. From 2018, the price of one urea bag has remained at around 240. That's it, from last 8 years. So urea is very, very cheap. Now, if you bring urea under nutrient-based subsidy scheme, urea, which is right now very cheap, its price is going to increase. And if price of urea increases, who is likely to get most affected? The farmers will get most affected. And you must understand, this is obviously one economic reason that farmers will get affected. And second is more political, because the government does not want to go against the farmers. Vote bank politics. So urea, if it becomes cheaper, a lot of people actually use urea. So government does not want to make it part of NBS. A lot of committees have already suggested that urea should be brought under nutrient-based subsidy, but so far it has not been brought. Clear with that, everyone? So I get it. So here we are giving a subsidy on per kg of nutrient, NPK, right? If you bring urea under this NBS, what we must do is, the subsidy for nitrogen should be such that farmers are able to use fertilizers in the ratio of 4:2:1. That much subsidy we must give, right? So to encourage farmers to use subsidies in the to use fertilizers in the ratio of 4:2:1, the only option is to reduce the subsidy on nitrogen and to increase the subsidy here. So what will happen is, urea any day will become costly under this, because we cannot afford to give more subsidies under this. It will change the balance of 4:2:1. Clear with that? Okay. That the government cannot do. Politically, it is going to backfire. Clear? Hai? Okay. Which one? It's very costly. I'll just show you how much costly it is. If you bring urea under NPK, it is said that right now its price is around 240. From 240, its price might increase to somewhere around 1,000 rupees. That will become very costly. Yeah. From 240, it might go up to 1,000 rupees. I'll just show you also. You can just see here. यहाँ पे देखो. Can you see here? Right now, one urea bag is somewhere around rupees 260. This is actually MRP of urea right now. And if you see DAP, diammonium phosphate, कितना है उसका MRP? 1,350. It's very costly. Why is this costly? Because the subsidy which is provided in DAP is less as compared to the subsidy which is provided under urea. You got it? If urea is brought under this, the subsidy amount will reduce. So the cost of urea bag will increase. That's the biggest concept. Same way, you can see MOP. It's the price are not highlighted, but its price is also very high. Muriate of potash. So let's look into the challenges now. Okay, let's look at the need for fertilizers. 1 minute, quickly generate points. Why should we provide for fertilizer subsidy? If you have 3 to 4 points, let me know. Question is, why should we provide for fertilizer subsidy? Just do a brainstorming. Do not write it in your main notes. Anyone 3 points? Your best point out of those 3 points. Okay. Okay, to enhance productivity. Good. Then? Yeah, this is the most important point which I was saying. The net sown area, remember in the last class we covered? How much is the area under agriculture? 141 million hectare. And what has happened to the net sown area in last 2 decades? The net sown area has remained stagnant. But what has happened to population of India? It has increased. It means from the same amount of land, we need to get more output. And that's the only way possible is to use more of fertilizers. Good. Anyone else? Can someone link it to current affairs? Fertilizer subsidy. Okay, then due to imports the cost is very high. Good. How? No. Okay, there is a country which suddenly shifted from chemical fertilizers to organic farming, and this country had a crisis. Which country? Sri Lanka. Remember? So what happened to Sri Lanka? Sri Lanka suddenly shifted from chemical fertilizers to organic farming. And once it suddenly shifted to organic farming, the production of agricultural commodities in Sri Lanka fell such that it started seeing the problem of food crisis. The food crisis went on to become the BOP crisis as well, shortage of forex reserves for Sri Lanka. So it is always, no, you must understand, we'll shift to organic farming or we will give up, let's say, chemical fertilizers. It's good to say it, but practically for a country like India, it is not possible. India needs chemical fertilizers, particularly when our soils are deficient in nutrients. Our soils do not have enough of nitrogen. We do not have potash. We do not have sulfur. So because our soils are deficient in this, we have to apply chemical fertilizers. Samay aaya? And I told you to generate points. Do not get stuck. I told you your friend for agriculture. कौन है वो दोस्त आपका? दलवाई. 3 points तो हर जगह पे आ जाएंगे. What are those 3 points? Red input cost. Fertilizer subsidy से input cost क्या होगा? कम हो जाएगा. Second, productivity increases. Farmers will get better price. Better price because they are getting a better production or a better yield that way. Getting it? Okay. But I don't think UPSC will ask you this question. Why should we provide for fertilizer subsidy? It's just a supporting pillar. Because it's a supporting pillar, you should have just 4 to 5 points ready to add value to the answer. So what is that points? Let's see. Number 1. Stagnation in the net sown area in the last 2 decades. I hope you'll be able to elaborate on that, no? It's just a pointer. Stagnation in the net sown area in the last 2 decades. Indian soils are deficient in N, P and K. Our soils are deficient in N, P, K. Third, ensure food security. And here you can give the example of Sri Lanka. That is in a negative way, right? Fourth, it will help us reduce the input cost. Next is It will help us enhance the yield of the agricultural fields. And offset the higher import prices. Majority of our fertilizers are imported, and they are actually imported at a higher price. So we need to offset that price. So let's say if you get a question on what are the challenges in fertilizer subsidy, directly before jumping to challenges, you can have a hub and spoke diagram on the need, where you don't have to explain it, just like a cursory point, like the way I've highlighted. One, you can write this, you can write this, and you can write this also as a value addition. I don't expect UPSC to ask a standalone question on this. That is why I'm not going into detail. It's a value addition point. Next is challenges. Let's see what are the challenges. First biggest challenge is higher fiscal burden. Any idea how much money we spend on fertilizer subsidy every year? 1.9 lakh crore ke aspas every year. If you look at a food subsidy is around 2 lakh crore. So food and fertilizer, if you add these two, the total subsidy is around 4 lakh crore. So higher fiscal burden, that is around 1.9 lakh crores. Higher fiscal burden. That's the first point. Second, import dependence. Most of the fertilizers we are importing it from outside India. For example, if you see urea, almost 13% of urea, 60% of DAP, and sadly 100% of MOP, muriate of potash, they are being imported. Any reason why MOP 100%? Raw materials is not found. Basically, if you want to manufacture phosphatic fertilizers, you need to have rock phosphate which is mined. India does not has any reserves of phosphate. So we generally import it from the countries which are rich in phosphate, like Central Asia and other countries. Okay. Basically, MOP is almost 100%, not the nutrient. Entire fertilizer, MOP only, because it has only potash. DAP almost 60%. Remaining 40% we manufacture it. Clear? Okay. Which is obviously too high. You must have understood, right? And third point is imbalance in fertilizer consumption. Imbalance in fertilizer consumption, where ideal ratio is 4:2:1, whereas in India, this ratio is 7:3:1, which means the fertilizer consumption is skewed towards nitrogen due to cheaper urea as compared to P and K fertilizers. So these are the 3 points. Fourth point is leakages due to no denial policy. Write it down, I'll explain. Leakages due to no denial policy Okay, let's understand what is this no denial policy. I'll dictate the remaining part. In India, fertilizers are actually sold through fertilizer shops, where the farmers have to go to fertilizer shops and they can purchase a subsidized fertilizer. Ideally, what should happen is the government should say, if you want to purchase fertilizer, you have to prove that you are a farmer. Only then you can purchase fertilizer at a subsidized price. Ideally, this should what should happen. But the problem is the farmers do not have an identity card to prove that they are farmers. That's the biggest problem. For example, there's no farmer's ID in India. Second, the land records are not modernized. So we don't know as to whether this person is a farmer and this person is not a farmer. So if you make it very strict, कि only farmers can purchase fertilizers, it might so happen some genuine people who are actually farmers might miss out in purchase of fertilizers. So government has said, no denial policy. No denial policy means anyone can purchase fertilizers, whether you cultivate agricultural crops or not. It does not really matter. Anyone can purchase fertilizers now. So what people do? People who have absolutely nothing to do with agriculture, they go to fertilizer shops and they purchase fertilizers in bulk. And that particular fertilizer, when they purchase in bulk, right, they will store it in their godown. And they call up these farmers and they say, if you need fertilizer, you come and purchase it from me. They will purchase the fertilizer from fertilizer shop at rupees 250. The same fertilizer, they'll sell it to farmer at, let's say, 500. इसको क्या बोलते हैं? Black marketing. A lot of people are involved in black marketing. हाँ, exactly. Some people have proved to be very innovative as well. What some people do, they purchase the fertilizers in bulk from the fertilizer shops. The same fertilizers, they smuggle it across the border and say sell the fertilizer in our neighboring countries like Bangladesh and Nepal. We have our fertilizers, जिसमें लिखा हुआ है Bharat Urea, Bharat DAP, Bharat MOP, and that particular bag you'll find it in Nepal and Bangladesh, जहाँ पे farmers in those countries are using Bharat Urea. Smuggling होता है. A lot of people are involved in smuggling. And this is a well-established fact which has been recognized by Economic Survey itself. Getting it? Earlier, what also used to happen is urea, you must understand, is a raw material which is actually used in industries as well, like paint industries, hazardous chemicals industries, explosives. So a lot of people, they used to divert that urea towards the industrial use. So rather than urea being used by farmers, it was getting diverted towards the industries. And all of this was happening because of one problem, which is no denial policy. समझ में आया सबको? Everyone? Okay? So यहाँ पे in mains, you have to be very precise, to the point. यहाँ पे, please write what point should you write in the mains. Leakages due to no denial policy. Put a hyphen and write. Anyone in India can purchase fertilizers. Anyone in India can purchase fertilizers through the fertilizer shops. Through the fertilizer shops. Full stop. Such a feature has led to black marketing, hoarding, and smuggling of fertilizers to the neighboring countries. Okay. Next point, you can write. Encourages fertilizer companies encourages fertilizer companies to remain inefficient, as the urea subsidy is based upon production cost. Urea subsidy is based upon the production cost. Remember, we have already covered this, है ना? So that is why it is said it encourages the companies to remain inefficient. Sixth is canalization. Canalization, put hyphen and write, only three PSUs are allowed to import urea. Only three PSUs are allowed to import urea, leading to demand-supply mismatch. Okay, let me explain this. When you see urea, right, it is as if saying ki for the urea, Indian economy is still in pre-1991 era. Like in pre-1991, everything was controlled, everything was regulated with respect to who can produce, who can import, how much can be imported. For urea, even now the same thing applies. Only three PSUs are allowed to import urea, and the private sector companies are not allowed to import urea. Understand, when there is so much huge requirement of urea, and if only three companies are importing urea, can we say that it will lead to problem of demand-supply mismatch? And the same thing had happened 1 month back in September 2025. When these three PSUs did not import urea on time, that is when we had a large-scale shortage of urea. Clear? Next. Subsidy is based upon quantity and not based upon quality of fertilizer. Subsidy is based upon the quantity and not based upon the quality of fertilizer. Let me just give you an example. If you see urea, we can supply it through a normal urea bag, which is in the solid form. Or this urea, we can also supply it in the form of nano urea. This nano urea is in liquid form. Okay. Here, you must understand, यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है मैंने? Nano. Nano means using the nanotechnology. So this nano urea, it is considered to be more efficient. Example of which is a 500 ml bottle of nano urea can replace the entire urea bag. That is efficiency. Now tell me, between these two, किसके ऊपर हम ज्यादा सब्सिडीज दे रहे हैं? Urea bag. In fact, the irony here is, on nano urea, there is no subsidy. And for this, we are giving more subsidy. So ideally, what should happen is the subsidy should not be based upon just quantity, it should be based upon the quality as well. Available hai, and it's quite cheap also. It's quite cheap. Which one? अभी तक ये अभी नया है. Nano urea is just new, and there have been conflicting studies with respect to efficacy of nano urea. So according to some study recently conducted in Punjab, it proved that application of nano urea actually led to fall in the yield rather than increase in the yield. So still it will take some time for us to come to a conclusion whether it is efficient or not. So far, are we clear with this? Okay, so I think you have written 7 points here. Okay, next let's see the initiatives, everyone. Any major initiative you know for fertilizer subsidies? We have PM Pranam, then huh? What is it? Krishi Vigyan Kendra? Okay, write down all the initiatives. Number 1, PM Pranam. PM Pranam. PM Pranam. Do not bother the full form. It has a full form, by the way. It has a full form, but do not bother about it. Because if you are writing the full form, it will take 20 words. And it's very difficult to remember also. So, PM Pranam, put a hyphen and write. Promote use of organic fertilizers. Promote use of organic fertilizers. Second is soil health card. Soil health card to promote balanced utilization of fertilizers. Soil health card to promote balanced utilization of fertilizers. Third is introduction of nano urea and urea gold. Introduction of nano urea and urea gold. Urea gold is basically a urea which is covered with outer layer of sulfur. So sulfur plus urea. Urea gold, you can write in the bracket sulfur. Sulfur coated urea. Sulfur coated urea. Next one is neem coated urea. Neem coated urea. Okay, just pay attention. This question, neem coated urea, was actually asked in the previous year prelims. The question was, what is the use of neem coated urea in agriculture? When we have the coating of urea with neem, it has two purposes basically. One, by coating this with neem, it becomes unfit for industrial use. One of the challenges that we covered was that the urea was being diverted for industrial use, like it was used for paints, explosives, industries, and so on. So if you coat urea with neem, it automatically becomes unfit for industrial use. And second benefit is this will enhance the efficiency of nitrogen absorption by the plants. Enhances the efficiency of nitrogen absorption by the plants. And in the PYQ, if you have seen, people were actually searching for an option of unfit for industrial use. But the option was not unfit for industrial use, but the option was efficiency of nitrogen absorption. It means the PYQ was not an economy-based question. The PYQ was an environmental question, environmental science. It's clear? Next point is one nation, one fertilizers. One nation, one fertilizers. Let's see what is this one nation, one fertilizers very quickly. Earlier, what used to happen was, this is how a fertilizer bag looks like. Earlier, what used to happen, you can see the name of this company, na? SPIC, SPIC. This company used to cover the entire bag. The front part of the bag was entirely with this company's name. And as such, there was no separate provision to denote how much subsidy the government is giving on this urea bag. So, the farmers or the government thought like this. It is we who are giving subsidies to farmers. But who is taking all the goodwill? The company is taking all the goodwill. लोगों को लग रहा है, farmers को लग रहा है कि अच्छा ये company अच्छा company है because it is selling fertilizers at a lesser cost. Government came up with a scheme, one nation, one fertilizer. Under this scheme, government said 2/3 of the space of the fertilizer bag you have to give to us. Remaining 1/3 of the fertilizer bag space, you can keep it for your company's logo or the branding. 1/3 is this logo or branding, and 2/3 is this space which is given to the government now. That's the first thing. Second, all the companies are required to sell their fertilizers under this particular brand name now, which is Bharat. So you have Bharat Urea and Bharat DAP. Second thing. Third thing, all the companies are required to mandatorily show to everyone as to how much is their production cost, how much subsidy the government has given, and how much is the MRP. One nation, one fertilizer is more about marketing and branding. It has nothing to do with improving the fertilizer subsidy. Understand it. समझ में आया? Everyone is clear with this? This scheme, when it was introduced, it became little controversial because of the name also. I'm not getting into that. Okay. So because of this naming also, it became a little controversial. So opposition party said that you are trying to promote your own name on that. Okay. But do not write it in the exam. Okay. I'm just saying it was political. So this is how you have the branding of fertilizers. One nation, one fertilizer. So one nation, one fertilizer, put a hyphen and write. Common branding of fertilizers. Common branding of fertilizers under one single name. Under one single name. Bharat. Okay. Next is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samriddhi Kendra initiative only. Under initiative, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samriddhi Kendras. Put hyphen and write. Model fertilizer shops. Model fertilizer shops. Last one. Sale of fertilizers. Sale of fertilizers through Aadhaar authenticated. Sale of fertilizers through Aadhaar authenticated POS machines. POS machines. Point of sale machines. So what happens is, now a farmer or anyone who is purchasing a fertilizer in India, they are now required to give a Aadhaar card to the fertilizer shop. and that Aadhaar card will be swiped at the POS machine, point of sale machine. The basic idea is to capture as to who is purchasing fertilizers in India. Last one, under initiative only, last one. Limit on purchase of fertilizers. Limit on purchase of fertilizers. Put a hyphen and write 100 bags per transaction. 100 bags per transaction. Okay, if you see the limit, the limit might seem very illogical to you, right? Because the limit says 100 bags per transaction. Why this is illogical is ideally the limit should be based upon the amount of land holding, or the limit, if not on land holding, it should be on per season or per year. Instead of using per season or per year, they say per transaction. It might so happen that there's a family of 5 members. One member will go on Monday, purchase 100 bags. Second member will go on Tuesday, purchase 100 bags. So every member, if it purchases 100 bags each, by the end of Friday, they will have purchased 500 bags, which also gives a scope for black marketing. Getting that point? Okay. So that is another very problem. We'll come to that. अभी तो हमने initiatives discuss किया ना. Next is last part is strategies. Strategies. It is not yet completed. It is still in the process. We'll come to that only. Strategies. First one, bring urea under nutrient-based subsidy. Bring urea under nutrient-based subsidy. Second, direct benefits transfer. Second strategy, direct benefits transfer of fertilizer subsidy directly to farmers' bank account. Directly to farmers' bank account through e-rupee. Through e-rupee. Through e-rupee. Okay, let's see here. In the bracket, write economic survey. Economic survey 23-24. Okay, I just made a flow chart of how this should work. Okay, just see the flow chart, how this DBT would work like. This is the recommendation given by economic survey. You know that government is building a database. The database of all the farmers in India. In this database, every farmer will be assigned with a unique ID. And this unique ID will be linked to the land ownership. That is how much land the farmer owns. This unique ID will also be linked to what kind of crops the farmer is growing. So if you just enter the unique ID of the farmer, you'll get all the details at one particular place, such as how much land the farmer owns, what kind of crops the farmer is growing, what kind of benefits the farmer is getting from the government. All those details you're going to get at one particular place. It is in the process. It is not yet developed. So AgriStack, all the necessary details will be at one particular place, including the soil health card details, which will tell us what is the deficiency of the nutrient in the soil. Based upon this data, government will calculate the fertilizer subsidy. How much fertilizer subsidy should be given based upon ownership of the land, based upon the nature of crops, as well as the soil health card. This particular money, the government will transfer to the bank. And what will bank do? Bank will convert this money into e-rupee vouchers. Remember, what is e-rupee voucher? E-rupee voucher is a money which can be used only for a specific purpose. It cannot be used for any other purpose. So we will design e-rupee such that the farmer can use this money only to purchase fertilizer and not for any temptation goods. Temptation goods like alcohol, gambling, tobacco, etc. It can be used only for fertilizers. So then the e-rupee voucher will be transferred to the farmers in the form of QR code in a smartphone or in a form of message, which is on a feature phone. This particular QR code, the farmer can use it at the market to purchase the fertilizer. So farmer will get some amount of money from the government in the form of e-rupee vouchers, and hence fertilizer will be cheaper. What if farmer is able to save that e-rupee? Tab kya kar sakta hai farmer? Let's say I'm a farmer, government has given me 1,000 rupee worth e-voucher, but I have purchased only 500 rupee worth fertilizers. I'm saving 500. No, it's not tradable. It is not going to expire. बाकी का 500 रुपए कहाँ जा सकता है? Economic survey has said, if entire money is not used by the farmers, the remaining money would be used for, number one, it can use not it for fertilizer, they can also use it for other inputs. And second, they can convert into small savings into post offices. So that way we are also encouraging the farmers not to overuse fertilizers also. Samay aaya? फर्स्ट स्टेप अगर इंप्लीमेंट हो जाता है तो ऑब्वियसली या नहीं डिफिकल्ट ऐसा नहीं मत बोल. जब हमने व्हेन वी इंट्रोड्यूस्ड यूपीआई एवरीवन सेड इट्स डिफिकल्ट बट वी अचीव्ड इन hopefully let's see for the best of the farmers, for the best interest of the farmers, let's see it should get implemented. And if it does not get implemented, you guys will join IAS and get it implemented, है ना? हाँ. किसमें? नहीं अब वो क्या होता है, गवर्नमेंट विल नॉट क्रिएट वाउचर. दिस इज हाउ वाउचर इज क्रिएटेड. गवर्नमेंट विल ट्रांसफर मनी टू द बैंक and it will ask the bank to create a voucher against that particular amount. नहीं e-rupee is already used. 1 minute. What do you think are the benefits of DBT for fertilizer subsidy? Apart from the topic, apart from my point, I have given you one point ना, उसके अलावा और क्या benefit होता है? You link it to the challenges that we covered. You link it to challenges and then tell us. It will prevent black marketing and hoarding. Very good. It will prevent that diversion, right? Good. Very good. Look at all the challenges. Take your time. Ha. Yeah. Good. It will make it more inclusive, right? Good. What's the first problem जो हमने discuss किया challenge में? Huh? Can I say fiscal burden on the government will reduce or not? It will reduce. Because now the subsidy is very huge, right? The fiscal burden will get lesser because we are transferring money directly to the farmer's account. Then it will make the manufacturers more efficient because now the fertilizer subsidy is given to the companies and not to the farmers. हाँ, जैसे कि fertilizer का consumption कम हो जाए तो import dependency भी कम हो सकता है. So if you get a question, a standalone question on why should we go for DBT for fertilizer subsidy, whatever challenges that you have covered ना, उसी challenges को आपको reverse करके दिखना है, बस that's it. Yeah, so I have incorporated this for your reference. Just have a look at this. ठीक है everyone? Can you leave some space to incorporate this? Just the benefits all apart. I'll share it after the class. But I hope लास्ट वाला जो पार्टिसिपेटरी इरिगेशन मैनेजमेंट था, आपने इनकॉर्पोरेट किया है? पार्टिसिपेटरी इरिगेशन मैनेजमेंट, you got the PPT or not? You got, right? वीकेंड पे करना था इसलिए? अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा, ठीक है. नो मैटर व्हाट, प्लीज एंश्योर दैट इट इज इनकॉर्पोरेटेड. हाँ, ठीक. ओके, सो लेट्स मूव टू द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक. ओके, 1 minute. I want the answer structure. Continue. Is your pen? हाँ, yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah, good. हाँ, तो there you have to explain about these two. हाँ, good. Include this one here in the conclusion. The question is not asking you strategies, right? So do not write strategies in the body of the answer. The question is asking you about the challenges. So write challenges and initiatives, and then write the strategies in the conclusion. 1 second. Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's a good thing. Huh. Okay. The intro is, I think, very simple. The introduction will be present, status, good. Then body mechanism, then the challenges, and then initiatives यहाँ पे आना चाहिए immediately after the challenges. Yeah, good. Good. Okay, I'll just show you the suggested answer structure. You can just have a look. Yeah. Hmm. Huh. Diagram as in like what you need to explain na. ये आपको when it says briefly outline means you should say how is urea subsidy working and how is nutrient based subsidy working. Huh, you can do that. Yes, yes, you can do that. A lot of people have done that. Yeah, the clear? Let's move to the next topic. Agriculture marketing. Agriculture marketing. And in the PPT, I have incorporated about nano fertilizers as well. Nano fertilizers. I have just highlighted what is nano fertilizer, what are the benefits, and what are the way forward. Just incorporated from the slide. Let's move to the next one. Next one is agriculture marketing. Agriculture marketing. Okay. Please see this question now for agriculture marketing. We have covered, as you can see, this topic, different types of irrigation and irrigation systems. We have covered issues related to direct and indirect farm subsidies. These two we have covered. Now our focus is shifting to storage, transport and marketing of agriculture produce. And we'll also take up the topic of MSP because it is related to marketing. You can look at all the PYQs related to agriculture marketing. To make your job easier, I have highlighted the different dimensions on which questions have been asked in the previous year means. यह है आपका scope and significance of agriculture marketing. This is role of e-technology, challenges, MSP, and APMC. Now, if you focus on this theme of agriculture marketing, what questions have already been asked in the previous year means? Number one, they have asked you question on scope. They have asked you question on significance. They have asked you question on challenges. अभी बचा क्या अभी? Which dimension on agriculture marketing is left? Initiatives is pending, and not just initiatives, the strategies. Strategies. What should be done? So those two dimensions for sure will become important. Clear? Or on MSP, what is the most burning topic about MSP? Legalization of MSP. So that is the most burning topic. You may get a question on MSP. So you can see in the previous year mains on MSP, the question was very simple, straightforward as to what is the meaning and role of MSP. Now the question might be asked on the legalization of MSP. So what I have done, I have just highlighted all the practice questions whose answers we'll be covering as part of our topic of agriculture marketing. Look, I have made almost 9 to 10 questions, and these questions I have framed on different dimensions of agriculture marketing. Syllabus में एक ही line है. The line which is mentioned is the syllabus is storage, transport and marketing. But from that one line, I have divided the entire syllabus into 9 to 10 topics, and all of those topics we are going to cover. So we'll start with this about agriculture marketing. We'll also cover the PYQs as well. Okay. So write agriculture marketing. So for the topic of agriculture marketing, the dimensions that we are going to cover are: number one, the scope of agriculture marketing. When we say agriculture marketing, what does it actually include? Second is we are going to cover the structure of agriculture marketing. Next is significance of marketing. Then the challenges, initiatives, as well as strategies. In PYQ, previous year mains, किसके ऊपर ऑलरेडी क्वेश्चन आ चुका है? There was a question on scope also, and there was a question on significance and challenges. This has been asked, this has been asked, and even this has been asked. So naturally what becomes important for your mains is structure or initiatives or strategies. Okay. So let's start with the first one, that is scope. Right. Scope. Agriculture marketing refers to movement of agricultural produce, refers to movement of agricultural produce from the farmer to the consumer, from the farmer to the consumer, full stop. In the bracket, right? Farm to fork. Farm to fork. F-O-R-K. So that is one of the keyword that you can use it in your exam. Fork here means consumer. Farm means farmer. Full stop. It includes. Yes. Take a moment and tell me, if you purchase rice from the market, right? That rice which you are purchasing, that particular rice is grown by the farmer. He has sold it in the market. From the time the farmer sells it in the market to until you get that particular rice, what are the different steps involved? उसमें क्या क्या include होता है? सोचो. One is obviously transportation, then storage included है. Processing, some amount of processing can also be done. Very good. Packaging, good. Grading, then value addition. Okay, so when you see the series of steps involved, if you remember the framework, it becomes very easy to write answer on agriculture marketing. The framework here is, when a farmer sells the agriculture produce, सबसे पहले क्या होता है? There is procurement of the produce. I'll dictate this, just pay attention. There's a procurement. We'll procure the agriculture produce from the farmer. After we procure, what we do is we undertake a kind of aggregation. When I say aggregation, means we aggregate all the produce at one particular place. When I say procurement, we are undertaking procurement from one single farmer. Aggregation means after procuring from multiple farmers, we aggregate that particular produce so as to have a higher economies of scale. Aggregation. एक बार aggregation हो गया. After aggregation, what we focus is, we focus on storage as well as transportation. And after storage and transportation, in certain cases, not all, in certain cases, it may also undergo some amount of value addition. Think of the basmati rice ka packet which you purchase from the market. Na? Can I say the basmati rice packet has undergone some value addition? What value addition probably here is it is packed, it is cleaned, and then it is, packed and then finally sold to the consumer. Yahan pe there is some minimal level of processing. On the other hand, let's say you purchase a product like paneer. What is the level of processing? Processing has increased. The processing is much higher level. And after value addition, finally kahan jata hai ye? It goes to the final consumer. So this is the steps marketing ka. Clear with this? So right, it involves procurement, aggregation, storage and transportation, value addition, and sale to the consumer. So this is the scope. Let's get into the structure of marketing. Like when I say marketing, when the farmer is selling produce, kahan the farmer can sell that produce? Tell me, where all can the farmers sell their agriculture produce? APMC mandis. Apart from that? Okay, second one is ENAM. Then? Directly? Huh? Through contract? Okay, good. Huh? Okay, then my question is very simple. Apart from mandis, what are the places where the farmer can sell their produce? He said ENAM. I take it. What are the other places? Wholesale market is mandi, na? Huh? So FCI is procuring it in mandi only. Where is FCI procuring rice and wheat? Ultimately, FCI is coming to mandi only. APMC mandi only. Huh? So the problem here is with most of the students, they have a limited understanding of marketing. They don't have other understanding. So we are going to cover the structure. And to cover the structure, look at this. This is a document, National Policy Framework on Agriculture Marketing. This policy framework was published last year as well. This policy framework basically talks about what strategies we must adopt to improve the agriculture marketing. So whatever I'm going to cover, it's from this policy framework only. Okay. So, yahan pe, when we say the structure, in structure what happens is, okay, everyone please pay attention, including those people who already know about APMCs, because I'm discussing some additional points which people might not be aware of. The first thing, the first place where the farmers can sell the agriculture produce is, we have around 7,057 regulated mandis. Look at the number of mandis we have. 7,057 regulated mandis. And these mandis are of two types. One mandi, we call them as principal market yards. And second one is sub-market yards. And these mandis, they actually function in a hub and spoke. When I say hub and spoke, it generally happens that in a big region, in a big district, In a big district, we'll have one principal market yard at a district level. The district also has certain blocks, talukas. In those talukas, blocks, what you can have is sub-market yard. These sub-market yards are in turn connected to principal market yards. जैसे कि दिल्ली का आजादपुर मंडी सुना होगा ना आपने, दिल्ली का. What is आजादपुर मंडी? सब मार्केट यार्ड, प्रिंसिपल मार्केट यार्ड? It is main. It is a principal market yard. दिल्ली का मंडी है, नेशनल कैपिटल. ऐसे कैसे सब मार्केट हो सकता है ये? It's a proper principal market yard. But this principal market yard is connected to smaller market yards around Azadpur. They will be called as sub-market yards. Clear with that? Okay. Here, I am saying that these mandis are regulated. When I am saying they are regulated under what? Under the APMC Acts of the state government. Okay. Second is we also have unregulated mandis. What are unregulated mandis? Unregulated mandis are basically those mandis which are not regulated by the state government. Why are they not regulated? Because number one, there are certain states in India which do not have their own APMC acts. Which state does not has a APMC act? Bihar and Kerala. Bihar and Kerala, they do not have their APMC act. Which means the mandis is unregulated. Unregulated mandis are also in those states where APMC Act is not implemented. It's like saying they have APMC Act. They have passed an APMC Act, but they're not implementing it. And those states include Manipur, Mizoram, and Sikkim. What is common to mandis in these two categories of states? Both the mandis are unregulated. But in the first category of state, they don't have a APMC Act only. In the second category of state, they have a APMC Act, but they're not implementing it. That's the main difference. Third, okay, some states in India are very, very progressive when it comes to implementing the marketing reforms. What these states have already done is, if you have studied about mandi, APMC mandis in your foundation classes, you may have studied that farmer is not allowed to sell produce outside the mandis. Farmer must sell the produce only within the mandi only. But there are some states, what these states have done, they have allowed the private sector to set up their own mandis also. So if I am a farmer in that state, I have a choice where I can go and sell my agriculture produce in a mandi which is regulated by the state government, or I can sell my agriculture produce in a mandi which is set up by the private sector. Any idea which state has allowed that? Because you belong to Maharashtra? Good. Maharashtra has this. I'm not sure about J&K. As far as J&K is concerned, I don't think so. अभी तक तो सुना नहीं मैंने. We'll come to that. Okay. Any other state? Karnataka. She belongs to Karnataka. She says Karnataka. He belongs to Maharashtra. He says Maharashtra. Regionalistic feeling chal raha hai class mein. Okay, there are some states progressive which have come up with these private mandis. Let's see all the states which have private mandis. It is there in Karnataka. It is there in Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Gujarat, MP. I'm not sure about J&K. I'm not sure about J&K. So I'll not write it. So these states have their private mandis. Apart from that, what you also have is Grameen Hats. Grameen Hats are at a village level. So if I could tell you a 3-tier, agriculture marketing, village level, आपको क्या मिलेगा? Grameen Hat. At the block or taluka level, what will you get? Sub-market yard. At the main district level, you'll get the principal market yard. So they are arranged in a 3-tier hierarchy. Apart from Grameen Hats, okay, right here, almost 22,000 Grameen Hats. We have almost 22,000 Grameen Hats across India. So at the village level, a farmer can go and sell it to a trader at a village level. Who do you think regulates this Grameen Hats? They are mainly regulated by the local bodies. Mainly, underline this word. Huh? No, they are not regulating this. Mainly regulated by local bodies. APMC mandis are regulated by the state government. But Grameen Hats by local bodies. Apart from that, some states also have farmer consumer market. Okay, what is this farmer consumer market is? In the state you belong to, you probably know that one day of the week is fixed. On that particular day of the week, the farmer will get his produce, something like fruits, vegetables, perishable produce generally. That perishable produce, he comes and sell it to the consumer directly. Mostly it is for perishable produce like fruits and vegetables. And he generally sells it in small quantities. And that to be selling it not to the trader, he's selling it to the consumer. Different states have different names. Like in Andhra Pradesh, it is called as Raitu Bazaar. Raitu means farmer. Same in UP, they have Janata Bazaar. Do you know the names of your states, farmer consumer market? Sante. Yeah, in Karnataka, it's called as Sante. Any other state? Huh? Tamil Nadu? Huh. He has a Tamil name for that also. So in every state, they have their own specific name. Okay? It's called as farmer consumer market. हाँ. But farmer किसको बेच रहा है? फार्मर किसको बेच रहा है? फार्मर इज सेलिंग टू द कंज्यूमर ना, तो इसलिए जनता बाजार. ओके, इज दिस पार्ट क्लियर? सो हाँ, some states have cross border market as in like interstate trade. We'll cover that. Interstate trade you are talking about. But that is too deep. International border you're talking about. हाँ, या यहाँ तक क्लियर है? Okay, apart from that, we also have electronic platforms. We also have electronic platforms, and that electronic platform one is ENAM. I hope everyone has heard about ENAM, Electronic National Agriculture Market, ENAM. We'll cover about ENAM separately. Apart from that, you also have private trading platforms in few states, not all the states. So some states, what they have done, they are allowing their farmers to sell their agriculture produce on the private trading platforms as well. Example of which is, there is ITC's private platform called as eChoupal. eChoupal. This is one. There is another private trading platform called as Ninja Cart. And there is another one called as DHath. These are some of the examples of electronic platforms. And third, these days, just like how you have stock exchanges, we also have commodity exchanges. Can you name some commodity exchanges of India? No, commodity exchange, the name, like just how you have stock exchange like BSE, NSE. One is MCX, Multi Commodity Exchange, or NCDEX, National Commodities Derivatives Exchange. So just like how you can do a trading of shares and bonds on BSE and NSE, you can purchase and sell agriculture commodities on these platforms like Multi Commodity Exchange or National Commodity Derivative Exchange. And in these exchanges, farmers generally deal in futures and options, derivatives, contracts. Futures and options, derivatives. Basically, they use it to hedge their risk. Hedging risk means to ensure that they are protected from price volatility. बिल्कुल. A lot of farmers who are part of FPOs, they are using this platform now. A lot of farmers are using it. That is, they can sell it here. They sell it through mandis only. They can sell it to private mandis. Aggregate कर रहे हैं. हाँ. Is this part clear? Okay. Let's look at the significance. Please have a look at this points. I told you scope, na? From this scope only, please tell me significance. Have 4 to 5 points ready and tell me. What is the significance of agriculture marketing based upon the scope? Some 4 to 5 points. Four to 5 points you have? Think, right? Obviously in the rough, not in the main. I just want you guys to do a brainstorming so as to generate points. How many points you have? 5? Your best point. नहीं 1 point सबसे बेस्ट 5 पॉइंट में से. To reduce price volatility. Good. Anyone else? Huh. Okay, then. Huh. Okay. Price. Higher price realization for the farmers. Good. Reduce post harvest losses. Good. To bargain for a better price. Good. Bargaining. Hmm. Wo- there are much better points in that. Okay, you can write it, but there are much better points. Huh. To promote higher economies of scale. Okay. I'll tell you all of these points are relevant, but I'll tell you the most important points should be at the start. And that should be very, very specific points. Let's see what is that most specific point. The most specific point here in terms of significance is it will promote inverse folk to farm strategy through market intelligence. Let's understand what is this inverse folk to farm strategy. Okay. What do you mean by folk, by the way? Folk means consumer. From consumer to farm. From consumer to farm, right? What does this mean? From consumer to farm means, let's say you are a consumer. Okay? I'm a farmer. What I am basically trying to do is from the consumer side, I am trying to look into what is the demand for a different agricultural commodities. What is the price of different agricultural commodities? Based upon whose agricultural commodities price is highest, I am deciding to grow that particular crop. That is what is inverse folk to farm strategy. Why it is important in agriculture marketing is, in the market, if you look at the market, what happens is there is aggregation of demand and supply. You have a farmer will come with his agricultural produce. So what is it trying to bring to the agriculture market? Supply. You have people who want to purchase agriculture produce. What is that? Demand. So there is aggregation of demand and supply. Through aggregation of demand and supply, we get to know which crop is getting how much price. If I'm a farmer, I will obviously choose a price. I'll obviously choose a crop for which I'm getting a highest price. I hope it's clear. Example of which is in India, there is a portal. Let me show you live example only so that you're able to connect to it. There's a portal in India. If you look at this portal, Agmark Net. Agmark means agriculture market. If you look at this portal on a real-time basis, it is going to tell me what is the price of different commodities on a real-time basis. So for example, you could see, if I click on here, okay. I think it's a problem in the internet. You can just check it later. Okay. Can you see here? It is simply asking me which commodity. And for that particular commodity, it is asking me the state, district, the market, kaun se mandi mein kitna price mil raha hai. And on a real-time basis, I'll get to know ki for this commodity, I'm getting this price. So let's say if I'm a farmer who is to decide ki should I cultivate flowers or should I cultivate rice? what I can do, I can simply go here, try to find out what is the price of flour, what is the price of rice. Based upon this, I can take a decision key which crop is best. I hope you are getting this. ये कहाँ से मिल रहा है? This is the information that we get from the market. This we call it as marketing intelligence, where the market is dictating to the farmer ki what should be grown, when it should be grown. That is very important. So going back here is, it will help promote inverse folk to farm strategy through marketing intelligence. Example, right? Example, AgMarkNet. Example, AgMarkNet. That is the important point. Second important point is, if I see here, what's the first step involved? Procurement. When we undertake procurement, right, we can offer remunerative prices to the farmers. Offer remunerative prices to the farmers through agriculture marketing. Third, farmer, if he gets multiple choices in terms of where he can sell the agriculture produce, then we can say it will help us prevent exploitation of farmers. Look, a farmer, if he gets this option, he can sell it in mandi, a regulated mandi, he can sell it in private mandi, he can sell it in Gramin Haats. He'll compare the prices in each of these mandis. Then based upon which mandi he's getting highest price, there he will go and sell it. So this will help us prevent exploitation of the farmers. Uske baad, after procurement, what is happening is, there is aggregation. When we do aggregation, you can say it will help us reduce post-harvest losses. How much is it for India? How much is in absolute amount? It is around 90,000 crores. This is our post-harvest loss. Pura, when from the farmer to consumer, 90,000 crore worth crops are getting lost. Yes. Next. Reduce post-harvest losses. Then you can see, यहाँ पे we are also undertaking a value addition. ना? Value addition किसको benefit करेगा? Food processing. It also promotes food processing. I told you the keyword for food processing क्या use करना है वहाँ पे? Sunrise है and bake in India, right? Promote bake in India. Promote bake in India by encouraging food processing. By encouraging food processing. Promote bake in India. Next, as far as the consumer is concerned, from the consumer side, we can say it will help us control food inflation. Because if you grow crops according to the demand of the consumer, right, it will control the food inflation. You could also say that it will help us boost our exports. Boost exports. Right here, with respect to boost exports, even though India is the largest producer of agricultural commodities, even though India is the largest producer of agricultural commodities, comma, its share in the global export, is only around, yes, how much? It is now 2.5. Its share in the global export is 2.5. Its share in the global export is 2.5 in the bracket 8th rank. 8th rank. So this is how it can boost our exports as well. So these are some of the points that you can think of in terms of significance. Now what we'll do, it's 5:25. We'll take a break. Once we come after the break, we'll cover challenges, initiatives, and strategies in a tabular format. So that in one particular table, you have all the things that is challenges, initiatives, and strategies. Okay. Thank you so much. We'll start the class at 5:40.